For October the 11th, we talk about the Silent Hill 2 remake, Diablo IV, Vessel of Hatred, Mouthwashing, and much more. Welcome to Level 518. My name is Cole Ross.
I'm Dennis Furia.
And I'm Jala Prendez.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. We have one of the rarer 3 styles tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's foil too, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
oh, okay, like a
Mhm.
trading card. Like a trading card would be. Okay.
There you
Yeah.
are. Can you tell trading card games are on my brain?
I think so, maybe. For no reason at all, one assumes.
Nah.
Yeah. How's it going, Jala?
It's going. I've got a Spartan Beast coming up.
Okay.
So Spartan Beast half marathon obstacle course race. So it's not going to be this week. It will be next week. So a week from the time that this recording drops, I will be doing my event finally. So
I was about to say at least it'll be a little bit cooled off, but I don't know that that's true.
well, see, this event is up in Dallas, so it will be inevitably because it is further north.
Okay.
So, but normally this event had been at the end of October, which meant that it was like hail and snow and things like that randomly every single time I went. But this year they moved it up a couple of weeks. So it is not at the end of the month. So it might not be hailing or snowing this time.
Hopefully,
because there's water obstacles.
Yeah.
I feel like there's at least a couple people that are like, oh man, if it's not hailing and snowing, you don't get the full experience.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's people who are like, that's
that.
what I like the best, actually. The people who do it like up in Colorado or whatever, you know.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, but and then I also had another fun thing. So I'm doing a sort of my first ever podcast exchange program with Nostalgia Arcanum.
Ooh,
so my friend Doug Leaf, we are both doing an episode on the Phantom of the Opera, the 1925 Lon Chaney movie. So Doug has a different guest, and he is kind of going beat by beat on the episode for Nostalgia Arcanum, talking about the story and in detail about the movie production and stuff like that, as you see it on the screen. And then on my podcast, I have Doug and then Picklefax, Alex from our community. And both of them are on to talk about kind of like stuff around the movie, like the impact of the movie and a bunch of stuff about the production of the movie, how it came about, differences between the book and the movie, and all different kinds of other stuff like that. And so both those episodes are coming out like one week and then the next week later on this month for Halloween. So yeah, folks can listen for that to drop on the feeds.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back a ways. Cool. Dennis, how about you?
Yeah.
I've been all deck of wonders all the time, and I'm very happy to report that the campaign seems to be going extremely well.
Hey,
so
yeah.
We're a week in as of this recording, and it is about 3/4 of the way funded.
Okay.
Or about 70% funded, I think. And just great support from the community, great momentum. The Master of Dungeons, by all accounts, will be coming to you soon. So thank you to everyone who's backed. Anyone curious, now is a great time to go check it out. And but that has 100% eaten my life over the past week.
Your deck of Wondersful?
I am deck of Wondersful. Do you hear my kids refusing to go to bed upstairs?
Yes.
At least you're not screaming bloody murder this time.
This is true. No, it's in the fun stage of escape, mommy. No, it's so funny because there are times where I've come up and been like, what was going on up there? And to their minds, they like, they're upstairs like, oh, I left a book downstairs. I want to read in bed. Can I go get my book? And Jen will say yes. And they come down. But to their mind, the most like polite way to do it is to try to be as fast as possible. Like as little time with their feet touching the first floor above me as possible versus like walking softly.
Right.
And so that's where you get the roller derby sounds from.
Yeah. and thus winding themselves up more right before bedtime.
Right.
Yeah, just get that adrenaline pumping and all that. But anyway, yeah, so it's been a lot of fun running the campaign with this second go. Validated the decision to relaunch, so we got, let's see, at the time of listening to this, we have about a week and a half left on the campaign.
Sweet.
Your email just hit my inbox, and I had just clicked it immediately and felt proud of myself. Like, I'm going to be one of the first people, and it's like 20% funded by the time I'm like, what in the world? Goodness.
Yes, that is the launch I was hoping for. So I'm glad it happened that time around.
Nice.
Very, very good response. And yeah, people have just been wonderful. I've started doing behind the scenes work on the audio portion of it because we do up the story segments with like fully produced audio through Foreteller, and talking with the voice actress for the villain Harbinger. She goes by Zebrakis on Instagram. She's like a Magic the Gathering content creator. But also an excellent voice actor that is going to be the voice of Harbinger. So planning stuff with her and the Foreteller team has been very exciting as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, the Foreteller stuff is really cool.
Yes, yeah, I have that. That is probably the most fun I have with the game because I'm kind of in the director chair instead of the have to do everything chair. So just let some really talented people run with a kernel of an idea and cool stuff happens.
Yeah, you can delegate.
Yeah. But yeah, that's me and nothing else.
Cool.
Woo.
Yeah. I don't have anything. I did that hockey game last week and that tuckered me out.
Still reeling from the hockey game.
Whew, man, I just not understanding what the crowd was doing all about. Yeah. Just literally just work and stuff.
Did I ever tell you about the weirdest experience I had in my travel abroad program?
No.
It was hockey related. So we had, I guess, UC has a sister school in Tampere, Finland.
Okay.
Which is like Dayton, Ohio, but in Finland. So it's cold. We spent 2 weeks there, and I honest to God do not know how. But one of the things that we made sure to do was like, we're going to go to a hockey game. This is awesome. Because Finland, obviously, that is the huge sport there, and you get some of the best play in the world, and it absolutely was. Like watching the game, it was like, wow, this is intense. This is like really skilled play. Like it just was so cool to watch. But the crowd was dead silent.
Okay.
The entire time. And it was not a sparse crowd. But the culture over there is you sit and you watch politely.
Okay.
And occasionally you do an organized cheer, which is the one word in Finnish that I remember, hyvä, which is go.
Okay.
And I guess the plus side is you could hear every scrape of the blade, every hit into the wall, and we're being the ugly Americans, like oh
yeah.
Sorry,
I was reacting like that no matter what because I didn't really have I didn't have a dog in the fight, so just like okay, my team did well, quote unquote. The local team did well. Oh, that was cool. I was just going ooh and ah for everything.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, when I went over to Japan and I was going to one of the big J-Rock concerts that I went to. It was this massive Peace and Smile Carnival tour thing that had like a bunch of different artists. And when my favorite artist came on, like there was a small contingent of people from other countries that were able to buy tickets like online from overseas, and we got like right up in the front. And so when my favorite artist came on, my friend and I were like, woo! And the only people who do this are Americans. And so he like rolled his eyes and grinned and was like, woo! And it was just like, oh, there's the Americans in the freaking crowd. It was pretty funny.
Okay. Yeah. So like My only like exposure to international sports is soccer stuff, right? Like that's the universal soccer.
And that is
universal
extremely
English.
rowdy.
Extremely, yeah. So like, I guess I just assume that everything is like that.
Yeah.
Huh. So that would be pretty eerie. Like being able to hear like the skates and stuff.
Like the players breathing. It was something else.
No. Weird. Okay. Yeah, that would have been uncomfortable for me. Having it be like a very overstimulating light and sound show. I think wouldn't do it every week, but it was an experience for sure. Also, sitting dead silent in a room as men beat each other up on ice would also be an experience, though.
I think that's the second season of Squid Game.
Maybe. At least according to the production stills. Yeah. Well, I think we should talk about video games.
Yeah.
Might be a good way to go. So we're going to do the regular kind of show with Grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss. And why don't we get started with... The Grind, where we talk about the games we have been playing over the last period of time or so. Jala, you've been away the longest, so I'll throw to you.
Sure. So I have several, but they're probably all going to be fairly short. So, Shining Force 3, Scenario 3. I completed Chapter 1 of 6. And I'm sad that I'm going to miss out on one of my favorite characters because my Scenario 1 data is default since I had that problem with my... I played the original on my original hardware and then
you had to switch over to an emulator.
I had to switch to the emulator after that. So my save data was on the hardware, which got borked. So I ended up with the presets, like the presets. And I just realized, I'm like, oh, that means I'm going to miss one of my favorite characters because... canonically they died in the first scenario. Well, shit. There is a way to adjust the presets in the patcher, but I already downloaded the pre-patched ROM and I don't have tons of time to go and learn how to adjust it, even though the community that created the patches and is modding and stuff like that is very friendly and supportive. It takes a lot of time to go through and do, even if they say it's quote unquote easy.
Yeah.
There's
still trial and error. Yeah,
I don't know. So I'm like, as long as I can muddle through, I will survive. The next time I can play it all on the ROMs and then just have the save data that I could port forward and it won't be a problem. So I just missed that character this time. Yeah. Oh well. So on that note, like when this episode drops, the episode 2 of the Shining Force 3 series on my podcast will be out. So if folks want to hear about Scenario 1, the one that Crimea River, all of my data got deleted from, that episode will be live at the time that this show drops. So the next thing I've been playing is Shining in the Darkness. So I'm continuing the Shining theme. So Shining in the Darkness, for folks who do not know, is a 1991 dungeon crawler by Climax, and it's the first game in the Shining series.
Okay.
So I happen to have the Shining collection on my phone, and that has Shining in the Darkness, Shining Force 1, and Shining Force 2. So I'd started playing Shining in the Darkness back a little while, but I didn't play a whole heck of a lot of it. I just kind of fiddled around with it. But then I picked it up and started playing this past week when I was super exhausted from work. So, not a whole lot to say about it. The goal is you're looking for a princess who was kidnapped by Dark Soul, who is the villain from Shining Force 1. And she's in a dungeon next to the castle and town where you live. Convenient. And anyhow... That's about all there is to say about the narrative. And I completed the first part of the dungeon. I got my other 2 characters, Pyrrha, who is an elven mage with a short temper, who ends up casting slow on a mercenary who bumped into her so that he would die in the dungeon. And then Milo, his actual name in Japan is Bilbo, who is a healer. He's a little halfling healer who can wield hammers, morning stars, and swords. So, just like in Shining Force 1, where you recruit people and then there's like a level gap, both of them started at level 1 when I was level 9. So I had to stop and grind them up to get them to my level.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, but they did get their levels pretty quick, I will say. And to continue on, I have to pass the Trial of the Ancients, which has several different dungeon segments to clear. I'm on the first one of those dungeon segments called the Cave of Strength. And very recently, and I'm talking like maybe an hour before we were recording, I realized I was deep in the Cave of Strength. And these are large dungeons, mind you. There are no maps.
Right.
And I realized that I didn't have an angel wing to get out. And then the person who has the egress spell to get me out of the dungeon did not have any more magic points because one of the monsters sucked the magic out of that person.
Okay.
And so I had to find my way out. Like I had to go look up a map and then try to figure out where I was on the map and then get my way out. And I did. I managed to. So now I get to go back in and do it all over again.
Yeah.
So
this is like an old enough game where it's not a given that you will know which direction you are facing, north or south. Like there's a spell you have to cast to know that.
Yeah. There's a spell or an item, and like I did have the item. So what I was doing, because like since this is on my phone, I could save it anywhere in the dungeon, thankfully. So that meant that I could save it and then use the item, compare it to the map that I found on the internet, and then reload it.
Yeah.
So I didn't use the item. So I could, because the item is limited number, like you can't buy past a certain number of them. So I want to keep the item. I don't want to get rid of it. So I had to cheese it to figure out where I was so that I could. And then once I figured out where I was on the map, then I was just using the map. But
I guess I didn't know that it was originally a first-person dungeon crawler. I thought that it was always a tactics kind of thing.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Not at all. I mean, like the Shining series overall just kind of wanders around in terms of like what genre it is. Shining Force is the only one that's the tactical RPG. And it's funny because even though there's a whole bunch of Shining games, Shining Force in specific was the one that I liked. I didn't actually end up playing any of the other ones because I was like, oh, that's not a tactical RPG.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. And like I'm probably gonna start going through the Shining games now, just to see all the rest of the stuff that's tangentially related and all of that. But anyway, so that's all I've got to say about that. I'm plugging along and Shining in the Darkness. It is a very good chill out. I don't really have to think about anything because there's nothing really complicated going on kind of game. So the next thing that I played is a fun little game jam thing called Lid Astray. So as part of the project that I mentioned that I was working on the last time I was on, I am now in the Inkle Discord server, which means that I'm seeing more about what people are making in Ink and Inkle Writer, which are some softwares that were made by the Inkle Studios people.
Yeah, Inkle Studios being the people who made 80 Days is
80
the big
Days,
one.
Overboard,
yeah.
Stuff like that, Sorcery.
Heaven's Vault, I think.
Heaven's Vault, Sorcery. And so Lid Astray, though, is an interesting mini game that was created by Avery Hubert in 2023 for Ink Jam. And it's an interactive fiction, but it involves your eye movements. So blinking, closing your eyes and keeping them closed and so on as part of the game's mechanics. So it's really cool. It's really short. You can play it in your browser. It's free on itch.io. And the instructions say that it probably only works on a PC, but I was able to play it just fine on my phone as long as I didn't switch away from the game window.
Okay.
So it's worth checking out. It's a neat little experience. It has a cool conceit to it. And that's all I'm going to say about that. You should check out Lid Astray.
So the lids are the eyelids.
Yes.
Okay. That's a neat idea. I know there was a recent narrative game, like a graphical narrative game that the way that you advanced was by pressing a button to blink, but having it actually work in and track your real life, the tiny moments when your eyes are closed, trying to be conscious of that, being conscious of every blink so you don't advance before you're ready, sounds nightmarish to me.
Well, it's not that it advances you. I can't explain it. You just need to go try it.
Right.
It's not advancing you. It's not like you walk forward when you blink or anything. But something happens. You just have to see for yourself. So, so yeah, it also kind of reminds me of Inverbis Virtus a little bit, because that's a game I played, I don't know, years ago now, and I actually streamed some of it. That is a game where you are a mage, you are doing some dungeon crawling, exploring type stuff, but your spells, you actually use your microphone and you say the spells. And that's how they work. So you have to cast the spells yourself. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so not taking questions because I don't want to spoil anything, and it's very short. So go try that free experience on itch.io called Lid Astray. The other two things that I have been playing, and I'm just going to lump them together because they should be King of Fighters 14 and King of Fighters 15. So yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with you lumping those together.
Yeah. I'm lumping them together because even though they came out several years apart, 14 came out in 2016 and 15 came out in 2022. They are largely similar because it's the same series. They do play differently because, like, that's the point of having iterations, is so that it changes stuff a little bit here and there.
They do play differently because time progresses linearly.
Right. So yeah, like what's interesting is that on King of Fighters 14, Yasuyuki Oda, who directed Street Fighter IV and various other titles for SNK, directed that game. And both of these keep the 3-member team format. But in 14, they introduced the Rush combo, which is an automatic combo system meant to make it more accessible to new players. So when you perform a rush, the player can create combos of special attacks as well as desperation moves if the energy bar is filled. And then techniques that are created by this rush system produce less damage than ones performed manually, but it does allow you to pull off combos and stuff without all the technical inputs. There's also a max mode where you can do unlimited numbers of EX moves for a short time. And when the timer, the timer changes depending upon the character's position. Of course, there's supers, but there's 3 different types of supers. There's super special.
Jala. Oh, you're killing me.
There's super special moves, max super special moves, and a new type called climax super special moves.
So is the screen just all meters?
No, it's not. There's just like the same simplified little meters on the bottom. There always are, except that you can use them for all different kinds of reasons and stuff. So yeah, but there are some like meters on the top and meters at the bottom, but it's not like screen bloat. It looks the same as it ever did, more or less. So anyway, Climax super special moves are the strongest in the game, requiring 3 power gauges or 2 if you are in max mode. So basically they're just like different level supers. So Climax super special moves are like your level 3 super, but you have to have that meter before you can use it. There's also a just defend mechanic, which allows players to parry enemy moves. And of course, there's a bunch of new characters. This one has Kukri, King of Dinosaurs, which was novel to me, but it's just Tizok in a new costume. Hin and a bunch of other ones. And then in King of Fighters 15, it includes the parry system, but it's name changed to Shatter Strike.
Okay.
I think because it sounds cooler. I don't know. So Shatter Strike was designed mainly as a defensive system, but it can also be used offensively when making use of guard points. So you can actually use it for more than just parrying. You can use it, to actually do a little bit of damage as well. The single button rush from King of Fighters 14 reappears, and it's updated to help players perform a super move and a climax move when the bars, when the bars are there, even though it was limited only to super moves in 14. So like now you can use like all of the supers in your rush mode.
Okay.
In the newest
I feel like, maybe the fighting game enthusiasts are looking over like, I don't know, first person shooters. I mean, like, how many versions of a shotgun are in the game? Like, why would that matter? There's got to be, like, I wonder if it's the kind of same thing where if you're in that world, you're like, oh yeah, the Supermax meter, everything.
Yeah,
Like, and it's like I kind of intuitively know where the
The shatter striking. Yeah, okay.
Jala,
you kind of intuitively know where the reload button is, or where the Super Smash Max whatever button is.
I have to be honest with you. This sounds like doing taxes.
That's okay. You play simulator games that I can't stand.
I know. I don't. I'm not denigrating you liking them. It's
just no.
Look, Tax Simulator is a masterpiece. Okay.
No, here's the thing, though. Like, I don't think about any of this bullshit. I just play the game, and then things happen because I'm just using the same movement pattern. Like, I'm not, when I play a fighting game, I am not one of those people who's like into the combos and has them all memorized because they watched them on YouTube somewhere and they're trying to be like the Evo people. Like, I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm just playing for fun. Yeah, and like I've been playing a lot of these lately because I was doing with Dave that thing I used to do with Capcom versus SNK 2, which is play with another person, and then we each take one or two characters, and then the other one gets the other one or two characters, and then we play through the regular mode against the computer. And that's how we go. So because I have this on my own Steam Deck, I basically was playing a bunch solo. So then I took one character and then Dave took the other two. And then we were just going through. So that way he could get a feel for multiple characters while we were playing. So anyway, been playing a lot of those. I don't know which one of those 14 or 15 I like better. Dave prefers 14. I don't think that I care. Like I like either one of them. They are both fine. They just play a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have fighting game stuff, King of Fighters stuff, then Lit Astray, Shining in the Darkness, and Shining Force 3, Scenario 3.
Busy.
Yes.
Nice.
How about y'all?
I have a new one.
Ooh.
So I'm going to bring it here. I have played 2 hours of the Silent Hill 2 remake.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. How is it?
So I was skeptical given Bloober Team's previous output. First, because they don't really make anything that is especially mechanically interesting. They're mostly just walking sim kind of stuff. Whereas a big part of Silent Hill is that it needs to be like a world to explore and actual puzzles to solve and some things to fight, even notionally. And also because Bloober Team has not handled serious subject matter very well with a lot of tact. And there are other people who have written specifically about problems with the medium and problems with the Blair Witch game, just how they're just kind of a little bit irresponsible with the tropes they use and specifically things that they say about people with mental health issues. So a lot of distrust on Bloober Team going into this, a lot of skepticism from a lot of people, not just me. But skepticism, that's one side of it. The other side of skepticism is that you are happy when you're wrong, right? Because new information came in, and I like for good things to be in the world. And the Silent Hill 2 remake, so far is pretty good. All right. I'm only 2 hours in. They made it a longer game. So like if you know the general shape of Silent Hill 2, I've gone from the beginning where James arrives in the city, and I'm like halfway through the first major dungeon, the apartment buildings, halfway through there. So I'm like through the misty version of the apartments and just about ready to go into the nightmare half of the apartments. So not very far in, but enough to kind of get the shape of it. And I'm very happy to report that this is obviously being approached with a lot of love and a tremendous amount of care. And it feels a little bit more additive than I expected it to be. More so than just the combat feeling a little bit more modernized, camera being put over the shoulder. things like that. Although there are things to say about the combat that I'm generally positive on. But like, you're exploring the city streets. The thing about Silent Hill is that like the games have always been a little bit of an open world thing, a little bit less so when you get into Silent Hill 3 and 4, but specifically 1 and 2, you spend a lot of time running around in the city.
Yeah, feeling lost is, I think, part of the initial experience for sure.
Yeah. And so like you're going around, walking around the streets of the city, kind of seeing these little set pieces and kind of figuring out the ways that you are hemmed in, and trying to find your way to kind of your vague goal points, which usually involves, in this one, going through several smaller buildings that are kind of their own little mini dungeons. It's very funny. Allison pointed this out on, I think, on Blue Sky or Twitter or something, but it's like before you get to the main apartment, like the apartment everybody knows from Silent Hill 2, there's like a little practice apartment complex that you have to go through. It's like, oh, we need a little mini dungeon for the apartment. How about a smaller apartment? But there's cool stuff. There's like that climaxes with a really neat scene, a really neat conclusion to just a small unrelated story to fucked up Silent Hill things going on. Looks beautiful. I was initially put off by James's character design. Like, that is not a haircut that you would see in the 1980s at all, ever. But it works better in engine when you're seeing it in the cutscenes. Performances generally seem fine so far. I've met Angela and I've met Eddie. Seen Laura, but just her kicking the key away as I was reaching through the cage door stuff. Dungeon, the apartment's a little bit more complicated, a lot more kind of steps involved in doing stuff. Just feels like a, modernization. You can argue about how necessary that would be, and it ended up being. I think the original one holds up just fine. It's still worth playing, and I wish that it was more readily accessible for people. But so far, even the small portion in, I'm feeling like I'm in good hands.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most jarring idea to me is over-the-shoulder camera for so much more of the game. Like, so much of that game is composed shots.
Yeah. So it ends up, there are trade-offs with everything, right? With the kind of close follow third-person static camera that you end up having. You have a little bit of control over it, but like a lot of like the tighter quarters, it is the composed shots that are revealing information to you in a really authored way. That is a way. Okay. That is a way for scares to happen. I'm talking about the original Silent Hill 2, right?
Okay. Yep.
That is a way for like, authored scares to be brought in, for the designer to have a closer hand in revealing information to you. In this, you end up with a little bit of something like a like almost like a Resident Evil 4 thing, where Resident Evil 4 is definitely a less scary game than any of the previous ones because of its action emphasis. But taking the camera directly behind Leon actually serves to constrict more information from you. And like, as you're going and exploring, you have to very consciously try to avoid tunnel vision. So you end up kind of spooking yourself by, turning and revealing, and enemy behavior works into this too. Like the mannequin legs in this are like little hide and seek ambush monsters, which is fun. They really like to stand still, and not activate. You're just like, oh, that's a danger right there, kind of deal. The head around corners and stuff. So like, it is a dynamic way for them to continue throwing in little scares at you, which is really effective.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah,
neat.
Yeah. And combat is hard. I'm kind of constantly riding at low health. There's dodging and stuff in it. If you're relying on melee, which is a little bit of it's importing some Silent Hill Homecoming and back into it, but it feels better handled than that, just because the enemies are a little bit more differentiated. Everything feels a little bit higher stakes than it does in the original, where enemies mostly just provide a little bit of texture between set pieces and puzzles and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. That said, I haven't played an awful lot of it. Like, I'm going to get to the heavier story beats. The fact that it is such a longer game is worrisome to me, because I don't think any horror game should be over 10 hours. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how they handle it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Any other questions about it? I feel like I was kind of thorough and monologued there for a little bit, but
yeah, like I don't have any questions, because eventually I will play it, but I say eventually. It'll be 3 years at least until I play it, unless somebody gives it to me as podcast homework.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be very interested to hear kind of the compare contrast when you finished it, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. So my hope is that I can play a little bit more of it to like get ahead, and I would like to stream it this weekend, just start a second playthrough slightly behind, maybe aim for a different ending in this one, in that playthrough, possibly, because I want to strike while the iron's hot. I think people want to watch that game. We'll see. But yeah, it's neat. I am happy to be wrong with my skepticism. Bloobers, they earned the skepticism, and their previous work is not, cast in a different light by this. But it seems that by working off of a template and already existing work that they obviously revere, and having a lot of the original staff involved, seems to be a pretty good mixture.
Awesome.
Yeah. The other thing I can't say too much about because it is
so you've only played a little bit of it so far, but in your opinion, all of the very many reviews that are giving it 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10.
I think that is a certain amount of just recency bias more than anything.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like expectations were low going in.
Expectations were low, not just because of Bloober, but just because Silent Hill has been so rudderless and not present for a very long time, right? It's been 12 years since the last main entry in a Silent Hill game. So I think people were ready. There have also been other remakes to help soften this up. Resident Evil's remakes, the Dead Space remake, which didn't necessarily blow my hair back, but was a lot of people's jam. Yeah. So expectations were low. Like, what I'm playing right now feels like a pretty good 8.5. If I had to rate these first, these first two, but I don't know.
You never know where the game's going to go from there. So I mean,
right.
Yeah. I was just curious because everybody's ratings have been so high, and it's that always makes me the little alarm bell goes off, and I'm skeptical. I don't know.
Yeah. Any review that's a 9 or above, there should be a mandatory 6 months after follow up review, and then a 2 years after follow up review. Is my opinion,
right?
Just because I think that will help calibrate the machine.
Well, and the way games launch has fundamentally changed now. It goes both ways. If you're going to rate it a 9 or a 10 out of 10, great, come back and see how well it aged. But then as well, there's plenty of games that launch as a trash fire, and then they kind of figure it out and they hit their stride.
Yeah. So feeling good about it. The other thing, I've got one other thing, and it's a narrative game, so I can't say an awful lot about it. It's also very short. I streamed it this past weekend rather. But it is called Mouthwashing.
I played the demo for that, and I bounced the heck off of it. So I'm curious to see what you have to say about it.
I don't know what the demo demo would have been.
A whole lot of nothing. I don't know. It wasn't compelling to me. So tell me about Mouthwashing.
Okay. So this is a game that kind of has a setup similar to Alien. Just insofar as you are, playing as there are two protagonists, kind of the captain and co-pilot of this spaceship, shipping company vessel, long haul, our journey is going to last about a year, very much under this, uncaring corporation that's running us ragged and all of that. But in the intro, the ship basically runs aground, runs into something, and suddenly you are stuck in space with no real means of escape, with 5 people who are very ill-equipped to be under these particular circumstances, and dwindling, resources for food. And it takes place, like, the timeline jumps around a bit, but like it is months and months of being stranded and the food running out. This is a walking simulator kind of thing. I use that non-derogatorily, primarily because the way, like, the narrative and the way they tell it in this is actually one of the most engaging things. Like, it's one of the best interpretations of this that I have seen. In terms of the way that it kind of spools out its story, and the way that it talks, like, very specifically about, like, the desperation of a very, very bad job in a kind of humane and interesting way that goes beyond just the, like, oh, everything. This is a terrible company because we're on this ship for a year, but they don't want to give us the resources to have more than one birthday party. So everybody has to celebrate their birthday at once, right? Which is a thing in the the thing in the game that happens early on. The characters are very well sketched, both in just their character traits and the way that they fall apart. And also, like, the art style in this is really good. It feels like a slightly higher fidelity Mega Man Legends, almost. It's nice and colorful, while still being, plenty horrific, especially as the sense of reality breaks down, which happens relatively early on. It's not entirely mechanic free. There are a couple of, there's some light puzzles. There's a stealth section that is not regrettable. But yeah, I really dig it. I think it's a good game.
That's good to hear, because I was like, I don't know, maybe I just need to come back to it later. So
yeah. I don't know, like, maybe it's not worth the money there, but for the time. But, like, if you're bummed out by spending $10 for a 2.5 hour game, there's always sales. I think it's cool. It's one of the best things I've streamed this year.
Cool. I'm glad to hear.
High praise.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to have anything new for next week, so I'm going to save the other thing that I streamed for later. Other than that, most of my recreational play has been Final Fantasy XIV stuff, but I don't have anything especially new to say about that.
Woo.
Yeah. Let's see. Dennis, how about you?
Yeah, I guess it's my turn. I got a lot of new stuff.
Okay.
So let's go small to big. How about that? And literally so, because the first thing that I've been playing is We Love Katamari, Royal Roll Remake Rumble something whatever. It's
a lot of
the,
ours.
the remaster of We Love Katamari that is out and kind of modernized, high resolutions, etc.
Delightful game.
Yeah, it's also my first time playing it. I played the original Katamari Damacy, I think back on PS2, or whatever it was on, and never got around to the sequel. So I am very pleased to see that the tone remains spot on. Just like cutesy, fun, and thoughtlessly hurtful. As you're ordered around by your dad, the king of all cosmos, to roll up items into a Katamari and make it as big as possible. It's kind of exactly what I wanted when I saw it was a Katamari game. And that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
Each level is very themed, and I guess the new thing for this one is differing objectives by level. Yeah. So in the original, you were always just trying to make a star or roll the ball to a certain size within a time limit. And in this one, yes, you're doing that often, but you've got other things like you can only pick up so many objects. So you have to make it as big as possible, or you need to, move things around the level or what have you. They kind of get creative. You're still doing pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's just a little bit of spice on the formula that keeps things fun.
Being careful of what you're picking up beyond just making sure you're not creating something that will be so unwieldy to roll.
Yeah. And it feels, I don't know how much this is different from the first game, that, I've never been able to screw up the ball I'm rolling so bad that it felt like I was super duper hindered by it. Like it definitely gets kind of a football wobble to it if you get it something too big on one side or another. But in general, that's pretty fleeting as you pick up other stuff, and it all evens out. It could be in later levels that becomes a lot more unwieldy. So we shall see.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the story front, such as there is one, you made all the stars in the sky after your dad knocked them out in a drunken party, and in the first game, and now you're back around, and people want more. People want more stars. They want to see the royal rainbow. There's kind of a fan base for the king of all cosmos, and each person that you go around and talk to kind of sets up the level. They all have a specific interest. One wants to be a swimmer. The other wants her kid to clean up his room, and all this stuff. And initially, the king of all cosmos is very dismissive of whatever they're interested in. Like, oh, I don't like swimming. I don't do the ocean. I'm only a beach person. And then the person gives the king a compliment. And suddenly the king is all about whatever their thing is, and orders you to help them in whatever way you can. And it's just that, perfectly encapsulates the dynamic that you've come to expect between the king and the prince. And then after the level, when you present whatever it is, pretty much no matter how well you do, the person who asked for it, that the king is trying to impress, is not impressed with it. And they're like, you can keep it. Which the first time it's like, oh no, now the king is going to be so mad at me. But he interprets it as, oh, you're giving me a gift. Oh, thank you. Like, it's such a wonderful gift. And he doesn't understand that it's given out of disgust rather than reverence. So he puts it up in the sky for you. Go ahead.
So it's not just child abuse.
No, there's layers to it.
Yeah.
And well, speaking of just child abuse, that can't be a title. You also get kind of clips into what you realize pretty quickly is the king's past. And you see what initially looks like a little prince, running around, getting ordered around by their dad.
Oh, it's generational trauma.
It's generational trauma, yes, highlighted in various different ways as you play through. So I don't know if they'll ever actually seek resolution through the story of this game, or if it's just going to stay pretty quote unquote light. But it's something to snicker at and not think too hard about, or you'll get sad. But yeah, gameplay wise, it's the Katamari that you love. With fun themes, very silly music and visuals, and then a story that'll break your heart.
Yeah, God, I love the music in that series.
Oh my! I almost wept when they do kind of the remastered main theme as the opening video is playing. It's like, this is beautiful. Yeah. So good, so good.
Nice.
So that is We Love Katamari. REROLL plus Royal Reverie.
Okay, I'm just gonna call it. Yeah, we're all Animal Crossing. We're all Animal Crossing NPCs. Yeah, I'm just gonna call it We Heart Katamari REROLL. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the lighter games I've been playing. I also have continued playing Control.
Okay.
Which things have gotten progressively weirder and more intense. I think the last time I talked about it, I was at the beginning of I call it maybe the second act, and there was a big jump in combat difficulty. And I'm pleased to report that your combat abilities kind of catch up to that.
Yeah.
So it did not stay too oppressive for too long. You get a couple tricks up your sleeve that help even the playing field. But probably my favorite part of this game, and I feel like this is true of so many games, is the side quests. Because especially in the format, this Bureau of Control that deals with the I think they call it paranatural stuff, just crazy, weird, otherworldly experiences. Just giving permission to like just do a self-contained story on one of those things is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So you get these little monster of the week quests almost, or altered world event of the week quests built into the storyline. And anytime I can kind of go off in a random direction and just get a very interesting idea played out, it is an absolute treat.
Have you encountered the mold yet?
I just got there. I just got to the medical wing and the panopticon.
Gotcha.
But I've been seeing posters about the mold for since the very first room of the game.
Don't eat the mold.
Don't eat the mold. Probably my favorite one so far has been the clocks.
Okay. Yeah.
I won't say more than that, but it's just like that level design is so fun. And very, very just, I don't know. I thought about it more and more after I finished playing. Of like, oh, that's an interesting object. What if that was, and you just kind of marinate on that stuff. So very, very good. They're starting to drive a little bit towards a kind of a big bad that the main character has history with. And I don't know. It has not clicked for me yet. Like that is so much less interesting than the truly weird people that run the agency. Yeah. I feel like the most intriguing thing is that it's just another day at work for them.
Yeah. It's real hard. Like the Casper Darling stuff is real charming.
Oh yeah. I'm glad that they did that as FMV. So a lot of the cutscenes are just filmed with actors. And I will be very curious because I don't think. Well, I guess you encounter the body of one of the actors early on, but I don't think I've seen any of the, FMV actors rendered as models in the game.
Right.
So that might be a little weird if I ever encounter them, and I would kind of suspect that I wouldn't. But yeah, we'll see.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So, very good game. I always play it with all the lights off. I feel like that is the correct way. And I'm having a lot of fun there.
Nice.
Okay. Final thing that came out literally today because its launch was delayed.
All right.
To talk about. I am playing the new expansion for Diablo IV. Called Vessel of Hatred.
The crack, it continues.
Yes.
Vessel of Hatred, is that what it is?
Vessel of Hatred, correct. And Blizzard does good videos, they do good trailers, they do good kind of conceptual work. So the hype for this one was real. I've been pleased with all of the features that I've encountered that I didn't know were coming. So, I kind of knew, a new class, a new area. This is kind of what the story is. But they've also introduced some really cool mechanical things that either they just did not talk about in advance, or just I happened to miss it, even though I was paying pretty close attention. So I'll start there, and then there's lots of information about the other bigger stuff in the campaign. But probably the coolest thing I've found so far is kind of a new gem kind of thing. It's a rune, not a gem, but that you kind of slot into your weapons. So weapons in Diablo have always sometimes dropped with slots that you can put a gem in that gives them, a little extra effect.
Yeah.
And certain weapons or armor can drop with 2 slots. Great. I can put in twice as many runes or gems or whatever. The new ad is only for those pieces of gear that have 2 slots. And you collect a series of top pieces and bottom pieces. Mm-hmm. And you are free to mix and match them however you like. The top piece is the requirement and the bottom piece is the benefit. Okay. And so it kind of turns into a build your own skill where it's like, okay, whenever I dodge, that generates energy that then pays off by, giving me more attack damage, or, I'm making stuff up, but you kind of get to pick a thing that you think you'll be doing often enough to then regularly get this payoff built into the runes. Mm-hmm. And you combine them into the weapon, and that makes the weapon kind of more special and plays further into whatever it is you're trying to do with your character.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was one of those things where when I started picking them up, it's like, oh, okay, very cool. I'm going to open a menu window and start thinking about this and probably not move my character for about 30 minutes as I plan out like what I want to go for.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the game is filled with fun little touches like that in the expansions that just feel good. It is very impressive to me the extent to which they continue to try to make this game better versus just cash in on it. So kudos to them there. And I feel like we've had a story every couple of months of like, well, Diablo reinvented itself again and for the better. Yeah. So
I mean, pretty recently too with the new loot system, right?
Yeah, that was just 2 seasons ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I mean, it was definitely earlier this year. Yeah.
Yeah, like 3 months ago or something.
Yeah.
Not a long time. So yeah, it's very cool to see.
I forget, are these paid expansions?
Mm-hmm. This one is. The seasons are all free. And it launched together with a new season. So whether or not you got the expansion, you're getting all the new seasonal content. Mm-hmm. Which again, that's one of those things where like there's a whole bunch of stuff in that I had just glazed over. Now you have these roving world bosses that kind of walk around the world. That if you can take them down, they have a giant portal on their back that takes you to a special realm and all this stuff. So very cool, high concept stuff. And I know there's stuff, towards the late game that I just haven't been able to play enough to get to because it's been a day. Mm-hmm. So, that's all very cool. And that's all in the seasonal side. The expansion side is a continuation of the story of the main game. Basically, there's this girl, Nirel, that's been helping you. And she kind of makes the choice to go rogue at the end. In kind of a, like, I'm going to take this burden on my own back and go handle it, go walkabout kind of way. Mm-hmm. And so everyone's kind of trying to find her, chase her down, and you're dealing with the effects of her moving through these different areas because she's carrying a very powerful and sinister force with her. So you get a new class that's the Spiritborn, and that's another kind of funny thing about playing a new expansion is literally everyone is a Spiritborn. Okay. Yeah. There are no barbarians, there are no druids, no sorcerers. It is 100% Spiritborn. Understandably so, because that's the new shiny, and I would expect people to play with that.
Yeah.
The nice thing is they kind of have made the Spiritborn class one class with a whole bunch of different ways to play it. So while you're only getting one new class, there's a tanky version of it, and there's a fast attacking version of it, etc. Ranged version of it.
What's the concept of the Spiritborn? The name doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, there are these creatures. It is a jaguar. It's all kind of jungle themed. A jaguar, a gorilla, a eagle, and a centipede of all things. Mm-hmm. So your jaguar is the fast attacking one. Your gorilla is the heavy hitter / protective one. Eagle is ranged, and the centipede is very poison dots focused.
It sounds a lot like a druid, like wild shape kind of stuff.
Yeah, the funny thing is, and you are summoning those creatures to aid you rather than specifically like turning into them.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people who played a lot of Diablo 3 say that it feels like the monk class.
Okay, yeah, with the different stances and stuff that they have.
Right. Yeah. I can't say because I never played that, but that's the comparison people are drawing.
And then Diablo 2 has an actual druid. Yeah.
Yes, and that came back for 4, so there is a druid class.
Gotcha.
It's funny, the druid class can wild shape into a bear or a werewolf, and they feel
those are both
same.
very similar, like similar ideas.
It's a bear wolf. I forget which one. So the Spiritborn is a little bit that same thing. You know, got these 4 flavors that play very differently, and you can mix and match together. And that's the whole concept of the class, is that you're blending these in whatever way you want. So that's how they get away with just having one new thing that everyone's going to be playing, but people are still, playing in different ways.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred, and the season 6 is like seething something or other.
Okay.
Again, it's named Soup for me today. I don't know what's up there. They were supposed to launch yesterday, so Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
Which everyone kind of scratched their head and was like, that's ambitious. Why? Okay, yeah, fine. And then, of course, there was a last minute delay. They had an emergency patch, and it didn't wind up launching until 12:30 a.m. on Tuesday. So, stayed up late to play it, and then had played it a little more during today. But they got there. It was ultimately a couple of hours on the scale of things. There are worse things that can happen.
Yeah.
So that is what I've been playing.
Cool. Anything else?
Nope, that is it.
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and you answer it. Dennis, what is the question you ask the nice people?
Yeah, and this actually comes by way of Ben.
Yeah.
So sad that he's not here to answer it himself. I'm sure we'll get his thoughts next time he's on. But what is the best year for video games in terms of the best releases were in that year? I've heard this discussion on movies several times, but I've never heard it talked about for video games. So I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah. I will get started here with Callum, who says 2000 was a pretty strong contender. Baldur's Gate 2, Deus Ex, The Sims, Tony Hawk 2, Counter-Strike, Command & Conquer Red Alert, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Age of Empires 2, Diablo 2. That's not even the full list of important games from that year. Edit, it's a year of sequels that were strong improvements on the original.
Yeah, I was like 2 and 2 and 2
and 2. Yeah.
Right. But it's solid year. Mm-hmm.
Good list.
I feel like sequels, especially the second game in the series, tend to be the best with video games, that they can just work out the kinks on the first game and are ready to go.
Yeah. No, I mean, especially around that time too, because I don't know, that would they were coming off of a really weird era for games. Like the mid 90s were the kind of growing pains, and hitting 2000 was, I don't know, a lot of worthwhile upgrades there. A lot of series finding their voice.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Let's see, Jala, what does Ollie say?
Ollie says, I think it was 1998. It certainly was for me. The list of great games is long. Metal Gear Solid, Ocarina of Time, Fallout 2, Half-Life, StarCraft, Tomb Raider 3, the best of the originals, Thief, Parasite Eve, Banjo-Kazooie, F-Zero X, Oddworld, and many others. But the reason it is the greatest is because designers were getting to grips with the new 3D tech in a way that they hadn't before, and still making classic 2D adventures and top-down strategy games, etc. The range of games dwarfs what we have today. And I will follow this up and say I have a whole list of mostly different games than that from 1998, which is one of my answers. So
yeah, that was
strong evidence that it is the best year.
That was gonna be mine. It's the first one I go to I'm not entirely sure that I believe it.
Right. Like right. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't retain. Dennis and I had this kind of conversation in the green room. I don't retain the numbers of the years and what video games came out at what time. Like for the most part. So like I don't know, but there were a lot of games that year that were bangers. So
yeah. I have I'm better with that the earlier it is the thing. So like I don't know, if you ask me which of the most of the past 5 years was the best for gaming, I couldn't tell you. But
that's because we don't have years anymore. It's just the after COVID times.
Yeah. I've said it a million times before, but time is meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see, Dennis, what does JC say?
JC says, well, I was 12 in 2000, so clearly that's the best year.
Yep. No, irrefutable logic. I forget who said it, but just a quote that I think of all the time. The golden age of comics is 12. Right? And it's the case of so many things. It's why like there's so many people are attached to the notion that Ocarina of Time has to be the best game ever forever, because there are so many people just the internet is kind of dominated, at least was for a very long time, by people born in the mid 80s. Who would have been 10 to 15 by the time Ocarina of Time came out. But,
I was in college or something.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was in 5th grade. Yeah.
Children.
Yeah.
Quick check. I see Lindsay between Ollie and JC.
Yes,
I do not. I do not have it sorted correctly. Is the thing? Yeah.
I was like, that's why I was like, Ollie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Normally I check. Facebook changes things from under us all the time.
Yes,
it is. Yes. It is heinous.
Cool. So I will pick up Lindsay here. Pick up the spare. Lindsay says, "I've seen many good years for games, but 1991." The Super Nintendo came out and changed our gaming experiences forever. People still play Super Mario World, Super Castlevania, and Super Metroid. 1991, what a time to be alive. 1991 also brought us Final Fantasy IV as well, at least here in America.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. 1991 is a good answer.
That many games with super in them, and you're just going to get brainwashed into thinking it's the best year.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see. Jala, what does Spencer say?
Spencer says the most recent of all of these years, 2017, the year that made Horizon Zero Dawn, Middle-earth: Shadow of War, and Nier Automata mere footnotes after the real stars of the show, Breath of the Wild, Hollow Knight, Prey, and Mario Odyssey.
Yeah. I don't know. Like that. So that gets into too recent. Like if it's a year that I covered on podcasts, like I don't know. It's hard to say. Like I've played a majority of those. Yeah. Hollow Knight and Prey. Yeah, Hollow Knight and Prey makes that for a pretty good year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh. Dennis, what does Gwen say?
Gwen says 2011. Even if only fools really thought that Skyward Sword was a better game than Dark Souls.
2011 also brought us Skyrim.
20.
Oh wow!
No, it's
or to 2011 rather. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, there was some version of Skyrim that launched in 2011.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Some version of Skyrim.
No, the original Skyrim was 2011.
Good Lord, yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, 2016 was Dishonored 2.
This is true.
Yeah. So anyway.
2011 is pretty good. I need to see what else came out. 2011 in game releases. Let's see. Batman Arkham City, Portal 2, Skyrim, Skyward Sword, Dark Souls.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Good year.
Pretty good vintage. Yeah.
Excellent answer.
And Rizana rounds us out here with just a year, saying, I would have said 2012. But no examples here. But 2012 has some bangers. 2012 has The Walking Dead. It also has, let's see here, Super Hexagon, Dishonored. Let's see. Dark Souls Artorias of the Abyss. So like that's the completed Dark Souls as well. XCOM Enemy Unknown. Fuck.
Since Raizana was on my Dishonored episodes, probably talking about Dishonored mostly.
Probably Dishonored, yeah. That makes some sense to me. Yeah. Yep. My answer for this is kind of the thing I've been saying for a while now. The best year for gaming is always the current year. Just because there are more good games out now than have ever been out in the past. You know, if you consider it cumulatively.
Right.
We are spoilt for choice.
That is a cop out.
Yeah, I was going to say, geez, that was a cheesy
I recognize
answer.
that it is a cop out. 1998 would be the usual one that I would go to.
So,
but since that was,
I don't care if I'm picking the same year as somebody else. I'm gonna tell you it's 1998 for me because Lunar Eternal Blue, Resident Evil 2, Marvel vs. Capcom, Street Fighter Alpha 3, Metal Gear Solid, Grim Fandango, Baldur's Gate. Come on, there were a lot of good games that came out.
There were a lot of really good games that came out that year.
I mean, like I was also thinking about it and I was like, I was mulling over 2005 because that was Resident Evil 4, Guild Wars, which I played a shit ton of. Sniper Elite, which I love that series. Guitar Hero for you, Kole.
Yes.
God of War for other people. And Shadow of the Colossus for various individuals. Like that had some pretty good titles as well. But 98 still was more star-studded for me. So
yeah. I just all of this is just is just proof for my dumb answer that avoids the question entirely. How about you, Dennis?
Yeah, I've got a new year for you to consider. Which, as I was reflecting on why this one stood out to me, I was like, I had GameFly that year, and I just played a lot of these, so they're lodged in my memory, I guess, at a critical time. And then I remembered, like, no, I didn't have GameFly. I had GameFly a couple years later, which is probably why I was able to get my hands on all these games then. And I just, burned through them because they were the games that you could actually get via that service. But I'm going to go with 2008, which has a couple of bangers.
Dead Space, Mirror's Edge.
Yes. Well, and Mirror's Edge, is conflicting, but just a really innovative, cool idea. It saw the megalith, the monolith, whatever that was Grand Theft Auto 4, which for me who missed the first, I don't know, I think of 1, 2, and 3 as like the first round of Grand Theft Autos, and then Grand Theft Auto 4 kind of marked the new era, which is just 4 and 5, but still. So it's got that. Fallout 3, which took it to the first person perspective. Not a game that I played, but Metal Gear Solid 4.
I don't know if we're going to put that one on flying banners. Yeah.
I don't know. It shows up on the list. So who knows? One that I definitely will stand behind is Left 4 Dead, which I have even to this day, have so much fun with friends in. Going over to the Wii, which I think came out in 2006. Also from that perspective, like the Wii was hitting its stride. So you saw Mario Kart Wii, you saw No More Heroes, kind of off kilter one there, and then Super Smash Bros. Brawl on it. A couple that are more personal to me, though, that I'm just like, yes, of course. Little Big Planet came out in 2008.
Yes.
And that was revolutionary. A little bit more of a mainstream title, but Battlefield Bad Company came out in 2008. And I think that was the first Battlefield game to run on their Frostbite engine, which was like the full destruction stuff.
Okay. That was Battlefront 3, I think. Or Battlefield 3. Battlefield 3.
Okay. Did Bad Company come before 3, though?
Are you talking... maybe it did.
Possibly. I want to say Battlefield Bad Company did, because there was a Battlefield Bad Company, then I think there was a Battlefield 3, and then Battlefield Bad Company 2, which was not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bad Company was a more colorful story and actually really well done, and then just the crazy new technology that really made a difference. And then icing on the cake, Army of Two came out in 2008. So
That's one
to
very
top that.
specific, very specific to you and Moxie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, so many good memories. Also, N Plus had its like console release, went from a browser game to a Xbox Live arcade game, the ninja jumping game, and that was a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
And finally, Braid came out in 2008, which I think is still up there in terms of puzzle games.
Yeah.
For any era.
Yeah. I have an actual answer that is not just my touchy feely one. And this I feel pretty good about this one. 1993. Do you want me to hit you with what came out in 1993?
Oh yeah, go for it. There's a lot.
Try me.
Mega Man X. Day of the Tentacle, Sam and Max Hit the Road, X-Wing. Let's see here. The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Doom, Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Fathers. Yeah, I think that I feel pretty good about 1993.
Yeah, this is star-studded.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
And Ben, if he's listening, is screaming and hitting the speakers.
Maybe.
With his answer. Or maybe we covered it. We'll see.
Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, no, that's nice going back down memory lane there. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, Dennis, for posting the question, and thank you, everybody, for responding. If you would like to participate in the multiplayer, you can join or follow the Duckfeed community group on Facebook and watch for the prompts to go up on Monday afternoons.
The next question will be, what was the worst year for video games?
No.
The end boss.
Now it is time for the end boss, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games around us, and how they make us feel. Let's see, Jala, you think you have the biggest announcement here?
Yep, I got it in early before y'all checked.
Yeah.
So yeah, a sequel to Alien Isolation has been announced on the 10th anniversary of the game's release. Has it already been 10 years? Man.
Yeah, 2014.
There you go. So,
wow.
So anyway, yeah, they're going to make another one, and also right now it's on sale for a very good price. So
it's like all the DLC,
all
the
of
game
everything
for $7 or something.
It's ridiculous. So yeah, worth picking up.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah. Are there any details about what it's going to be?
Nothing.
No.
Just an announcement.
I think you can imagine some.
Yeah. This is usually your territory, Cole, but I took it for today.
Gotcha. Okay. I didn't even know. Like, okay, it's a sequel. Is it going to continue Amanda Ripley's story, or
doesn't say
nothing? Okay.
Nothing.
All right.
You play as the alien.
There you go.
Yeah. I'll let people have this one for now. There'll be time for my opinion later. People can be excited. I've got another one. This is also horror related. Pathologic 3 was announced.
That'll make various individuals excited.
That'll make a handful of individuals very excited.
I seem to know a high percentage of people who will be excited by this.
Yes. So Pathologic 2 was kind of a remake of one of the scenarios from the original Pathologic. Story about an ailing town on the Russian steppe, kind of a magical realism horror game about a town completely succumbing to disease. That had 3 protagonists it was basically 3 whole games in one, built around kind of similar systems in a similar setting, stories running alongside each other. There was the Bachelor, kind of a professor kind of guy, the Harrispex, who's kind of like a folk medicine guy, and the Changeling, who is like a little bit of a savior character, like a messiah mystic kind of person. Pathologic 2 was very specifically the Harrispex's story. Had its own kind of mechanics to it, specifically around surgery, and attempting to save people with kind of home concocted cures and what have you. People thought that the other storylines were going to be added as DLC for Pathologic 2. But I think this actually makes a lot more sense because each of these is a complete story, you know, rather than it being like Pathologic 2, the Bachelor's route, or, you know, Daniil Dankovsky or whatever. It is literally just, okay, yeah, this is like a whole new game. Like, there are going to be new mechanics for it. It's still roughly the same story in the same setting, runs parallel to the Harrispex' story, but just it's going to be a full numbered title, presumably with Pathologic 4 coming and being the story for Clara, being the story for the Changeling. This one is going to have it's going to be more focused on like diagnosis and like prescribing medicine, like doing a lot of like triage. This is going to involve more stuff in the hospital for it, and also because the Bachelor is the one who's like from outside of the town and definitely has like a real savior complex about it. Like, this is going to have like specifically like time travel stuff where you're trying to like fix things from going wrong before they even happen, kind of things.
For a little bit there, I'm like, and you're a vampire.
No. There's vampire stuff that happens in the story, or stuff that's kind of akin to it. But the Bachelor himself is kind of this big city guy coming out thinking all these people are rubes. But his actually ends up not being more mystical than the changelings, but like it gets into some real bizarre kind of stuff, specifically with the polyhedron. This implausible structure that's kind of built. I'm super excited about this. I've not beaten Pathologic 2. It's kind of not a game you beat on the first 2 or 3 times you play it. But happy to see this studio doing more, especially given how rough things are just in that region generally right now. Yeah.
Rock on.
So that's
very cool.
That's that's my story here. And Dennis, round us out with yours. What's happening in the world of pinball games?
Yeah, would you believe it or not, a third thing exists.
A third thing does happen to exist. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I love pinball, and I do love Spire-based games, or game rather.
Spire?
Where you slay it specifically.
Okay. Just the concept of a spire intrigues you.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, you know, N1 so far, but I guess now N2, because I encountered today a game coming out called Pinball Spire, and this is like a Metroidvania pinball game. If such a thing can be said, rather than having a table that you kind of master and learn all the ramps for, you're using pinball mechanics to ascend a spire.
Okay.
And as you go up level by level, you can collect stuff on the table as you rise. You can get special powers like to slow down time, see the trajectory of your ball, etc. There are copious secret areas you can get into by making skill shots. And the art is very much done up in a pixelated style that makes me think of like Sonic Spinball kind of graphics. So
a weird pull to make something appealing to people.
Yeah. So this is really intriguing to me. The other game I can think of that did this was called Rollers of the Realm, and it was it was on PlayStation Vita. That's where I played it. I don't know if it was only on that. But that kind of took an RPG aspect to it, where like you damaged enemies by hitting them with your pinball, and the each pinball kind of was a different archetype that you could choose. So there's a little bit of that going on here. But this also looks to be just like a very off the wall platformer, really, because you're trying to ascend room to room. Apparently that's kind of the one thing to watch out for, is it can be very brutal. If you fall or ball out at the wrong place, you can lose a lot of progress.
Okay.
But thankfully save points are fairly copious. So
God, now I want to Benefati's Getting Over It Pinball Edition.
Oh no. So Pinball Spire, and it's out now on Steam. Go check it out, because it exists.
Woo!
Sweet. So many things exist now. It's wild.
Mm-hmm. Why one might even say that there are more things that exist now than ever did before.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, how do you all feel about buttoning it up?
I feel buttons.
Agreed.
The credit.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to level number 518. We appreciate you taking the time. You know what you can do to support this show and this network. You can leave ratings or reviews on this show. You can participate in the multiplayer at the Duckfeed community group on Facebook. You can support us on Patreon. It's all good. Let's see. Dennis. Sorry, it's agonizing. Who am I going to go to first? Who do I show preference to?
There's such a weird cadre of people missing too. So
yeah,
on this show.
Yeah. Dennis, remind people how they can support your game, your game you made.
Absolutely. Go to Kickstarter, search for Deck of Wonders, and you will find Deck of Wonders, the Master of Dungeons. It's the first expansion for the game, but you can also get the base game with it if you like. We look to be on pace to fund, but we need more people to make that happen. So go help us make it happen.
Yeah.
And it's not just for people who have played the original and want to get the expansion. You can get both.
Yep.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So there is an entry point there. Cool. And Jala, what's happening at Jala's place?
Yeah, so current episodes, the last episode that came out and the current episode that is dropping when this episode drops are going to be about Shining Force 3, the overview episode, which is spoiler-free, and then the Scenario 1 episode that digs into the first section of Shining Force 3. It is a massive game. The other ones will come later. So you can check those out for now. I also included a blog post that has a how-to if you don't know how to get the thing to run on your computer or whatever. There is a very basic how-to and a link to the Discord for the people who did the English patches if you need help. So there is that. And then later on in the month, there will be the Phantom of the Opera movie episode, podcast exchange program with Nostalgia Arcanum. And then I'm also on Tales from the Backlog sometime this month to talk about Decarnation along with Dave.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, you can check that out. Tales from the Backlog coming up soon. And then also Nostalgia Arcanum and my own show, of course. I'm in various places.
Nice. Cool. Well, I think that's everything as far as promotions go.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been Cole Ross. You can find me on Blue Sky at Cole Ross.
I've been Dennis Furia. You can find me on Kickstarter searching for Deck of Wonders.
I'm Jala in all the places I may be found.
And stick around for some titles.
My one title that I have this week is very appropriate. Deck of Wondersful. The end. That's all of my titles.
Yeah. I feel like this has almost been a title a few times, but I have That Can't Be a Title. Just because it was very funny when it came out in relation to child abuse.
So me writing down not just child abuse is probably a good indication that can't be a title.
That can be an A-toady, I guess.
It's an A-toady. Well, that can't be a title has to have been an A-toady at some point, I'm sure.
I'm sure it's been in one of the A-toadies before.
It's been in the running for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The other one that I have is It's a Bear Wolf. Yes. All right, Dennis, what do you have besides not just child abuse?
That's the only thing I have.
Okay.
Which I will not seriously enter into contention, but will say points to That Can't Be a Title.
Yeah. How do we feel?
I feel we should promote Dennis.
Yeah, let's do Deck of Wondersful.
Aw, you guys are sweet.
Cool. Writing that down, it is decided.
Woo.